So today I'm going to explain what is Tezos, the history behind Tezos, what makes Tezos special, and most importantly, what factors could make the Tezos price rise, and last of all, what is the future of Tezos. Now, if you're new to blockchain or cryptocurrency in general, I would recommend watching this video by CryptoCasey. She explains very well what blockchain is and its use cases and also the history of Bitcoin. So, what exactly is Tezos? Tezos, like Bitcoin, is a cryptocurrency that is linked to a blockchain ledger. And this blockchain ledger has nodes all around the world that are interconnected and stay synced with one another. These individual tokens are called Tez or Tezos. The main thing that differentiates Tezos from other blockchains out there is it's a self-amending ledger. Also, it's on-chain governance, and I'll go ahead and explain more on that later in the video. 2014, a man by the name of Arthur Brightman was in Botswana on his honeymoon. And on this honeymoon, Arthur was reading the Ethereum white paper, and he was thinking about all the different things he would change about Ethereum to make it future-proof. Now, during this time, he decided, well, what's wrong with this Ethereum blockchain? Like, there's no on-chain governance. What if you want to change the protocol and basically nobody can agree on anything? So he created a white paper with the goal in mind of making Tezos the last standing cryptocurrency. So Arthur went out and he tried to explain this new awesome idea to his banking friends. Arthur was a very bright man, or is a very bright man, sorry, he's not in the grave yet. But at the time, Bitcoin was kind of a joke. However, he wasn't able to get anybody to back his idea. And another way to get the funds during the time, and even nowadays, is an ICO, or initial coin offering. Now, in order to make this ICO, he needed someone who was an expert in the field. So Arthur decided to join with a South African expat by the name of Johan Gevers. And Gevers had a history of running his own ICOs. He had had a few relatively successful ICOs in the past. He was also the co-founder of a blockchain company called Monetas. Since most ICOs are blocked by most countries in their banking systems, having the Tezos Foundation, headquartered in Switzerland, had three main benefits. The first benefit being they could take advantage of the local tax laws in Switzerland. The second advantage being that they were able to not be so regulated by the SEC. There's a workaround in Switzerland where you can basically accept donations. In exchange for those donations, you can go ahead and give out the cryptocurrency. The third reason for starting up the Tezos Foundation in Switzerland was by being located in Switzerland, the Tezos Foundation would be regulated by the Swiss government. This means that the funds couldn't just magically disappear. So Arthur, Kathleen, and Gevers went ahead and set up the Tezos Foundation. They went ahead and made Gevers the president of the foundation. At the time, Arthur didn't seem to have any misgivings about Gevers. Kathleen had a few doubts. The Tezos Foundation and the Brightmans weren't really worried about who had control of the ICO funds. They really needed to move quickly in order to produce a secure product. Now, at the time, there was a huge attack on the Ethereum network known as the DAO attack, which was basically a decentralized application on the Ethereum network. There was a security exploitation and millions of dollars were stolen. And Tezos could not risk having this sort of weakness in their coin. So in order to keep things moving along quickly, they decided to give Gevers sole control over the ICO keys. Now, at the time, this seemed like a great idea. However, in the end, this turned out to be not one of the best ideas for Tezos. On July 1st, 2017, Tezos had a really successful ICO, raising over $232 million, one of the largest ICOs in history. And that's where the trouble begins. So from there, Gevers decided to propose his own salary. Ended up being like somewhere in the millions of dollars. Apparently, it was quite a bit of money. Arthur found out that the Tezos Foundation had actually paid for the Monetas headquarters, new headquarters, which had nothing to do with Tezos. However, they knew that Monetas was actually not doing so well financially, so he was pretty pissed off about that. Then Arthur went out and threatened Gevers, saying that if he didn't stop these shady acts, that he would go ahead and expose Gevers to the press, which probably didn't improve relationship that much, since Gevers was the sole keeper of the key to all of the Tezos Foundation funds. Basically decided not to release any of the ICO funds and didn't pay off any of the contractors that the Tezos Foundation had hired. I don't think there's any full-time contracts at the time, but there were some part-time workers who weren't making any money. They were tweeting and showing empty bank accounts on Twitter, which is kind of sad, actually. So Gevers' main excuse for this was, I am paid to be a leader. I'm not supposed to be taking care of these operational tasks. However, if you're going to delegate these tasks, shouldn't you get some sort of account or something? And I guess he was trying to get his friend Gustini to do that, who was working for Monetas, which it seems like he did because they paid for the Monetas headquarters. Anyways, yeah. So anyways, on October 15th, 2017, the Brightmans sent a letter, a letter written by a lawyer to Gevers. Basically, this letter accused Gevers of deception and self-dealing, as well as the Swiss, basically equivalent of disloyal management. Then they requested Gevers to be removed from the Tezos Foundation board. So basically, due to all this crazy publicity, a few news agencies got a hold of this crazy news and started publishing about Tezos and really exploding the internal struggle that Tezos was having to the public, creating really bad publicity for Tezos. Now, to say that Gevers had single key access to the funds isn't quite correct. There was another agency called Bitcoin Swiss that also had access to these keys, and if both his keys and Bitcoin Swiss's keys were gone, the ICO funds would have been lost forever. So after all this dispute, the Tezos community held strong. They had a petition and over 1,700 people signed in order to get the Swiss government to go ahead and kick out Gevers from the Tezos Foundation and hand over the keys. Then the two remaining foundation board members went ahead and wrote a letter to Gevers requesting that he leave the board and that he pass over the keys. In late February 2018, Gevers went ahead and resigned from the board and handed his keys over to the foundation. Then the Tezos mainnet was launched in February 2018. So, due in part to the Gevers miscommunication debacle, there were several lawsuits brought against the Tezos Foundation. And eventually those lawsuits were consolidated into a class action lawsuit. This class action lawsuit was actually settled in 2020 since the Tezos Foundation decided it wasn't really worth the negative publicity and the drama, and also the lawyer fees were starting to really stack up. And you can actually see that because in the end, they ended up paying, I think, $25 million to the prosecutors and then $8.5 million went to the lawyers. So who really won in this? I think we can all pretty much see quite clearly who won. So despite its dramatic history, Tezos actually has some really good ideas behind it. Tezos is novel in three aspects. The first aspect is its on-chain governance. This on-chain governance allows its Tezos contributors or bakers to go ahead and update the protocol every several months. This means it can add enhancements, add security features, as well as remove security flaws in the Tezos blockchain. Basically, this future-proofs the chain. The second thing that makes Tezos pretty amazing is its secure custody. This basically means you can have your coins in cold storage with the key secure in your own wallet and still be making interest and still participating in the blockchain without pretty much any risk on your part. The third most awesome part about Tezos, in my personal opinion, is its institutional grade contracts. This means that you can test out a contract before implementing it, meaning you can make sure that your Tezos is getting sent to the right person before you actually send it. And that is a very big deal for institutional investors who are investing billions of dollars and don't want to always just send the money first and ask questions later. They want to test the transaction before they actually send it. Now, to kind of understand how Tezos is special, you first need to understand what forking is. So, a blockchain fork happens for many reasons, but one of the main reasons a fork happens is when a group of people decide to branch off and start their own blockchain using the original blockchain's code. Now I'll go ahead and explain how the Ethereum network fork happens and how Tezos is a superior coin in that aspect, where forks aren't necessary in order to upgrade the protocol. So first of all, there was the DAO attack in 2016. This created a fork where the majority of Ethereum users decided, okay, we'll go ahead and change the code and roll back and nullify these transactions. Another group decided, oh, we're going to keep the original, and that was Ethereum Classic. So the Ethereum price went all the way up from $17 down to $13 because of this attack. Now, again, they're debating another hard fork right now, and that's called Ethereum 2.0. Ethereum 2.0 is going to be trying to switch from proof of work to proof of stake. However, they're also having a problem with that because there is no on-chain governance, meaning that everyone has to have a consensus on which way they're going to fork before they can actually fork the coin, and everyone has to update their nodes and everything. So that makes things very difficult since there's no consensus among the community. Now in this example, there are even some Ethereum community members who don't want to move from proof of work, so they want to keep this original code. So that means that just like Ethereum Classic, there's going to be a group of people who have the original code and a group of people who don't have the original code, which splits the community. Let's go ahead and go on to the Tezos upgrade history. So in Protocol 1 was the Tezos Genesis block was created, and from there the Tezos Foundation Baker started. Upgrade 2 was an internal. Now when we move on to Upgrade 3, it allowed for external bakers to go ahead and get involved in the Tezos network. These are all non-voted protocol upgrades. They were just run by the Tezos Foundation. However, when it came to Protocol 4, Athens Protocol, this actually required a consensus of like 80% of the bakers. Basically, they lowered the requirements for baking from 10,000 Tezos to 8,000 Tezos. Meaning, say the Tezos price is at $3, instead of you needing $30,000 worth of Tezos, you actually only need $24,000. So this is a very big proof of concept for Tezos. Now, again, they had a fourth protocol upgrade, which was Babylon. Now, Babylon was a little bit more of a technical upgrade. I didn't really get into much detail in this video. In Babylon, basically they made it so you can actually delegate from your TZ1 address rather than just your KT1 address. The point of this upgrade was to eventually move away from KT1 addresses and just use TZ1 addresses. Then in February 2020, they had their latest upgrade, which was Carthage. Now, Carthage not only upgraded the Tezos baking code, it also upgraded the node code. And you had to upgrade your storage and everything. It was a rather technical upgrade. It wasn't the easiest upgrade in the Tezos network. Also, during this Carthage upgrade, the rewards changed. One thing to note, back in 2018-19, there was a separate sort of fork of the Tezos network, which was the Doom protocol. Now the Doom protocol, basically the company Camel Pro, they decided to take the open source of code of Tezos and fork it, and then they would distribute Doom coins to anybody who will hold a certain amount of Tezos coins during that time period. This was not a hard fork necessarily, it was more like they just took the code from Tezos because they wanted to start a new platform. Now I'd like to go ahead and move on to the topic of on-chain governance. If you go ahead and compare the Tezos network to either Bitcoin or Ethereum, you can quite clearly see that its upgrade process is a lot smoother. While Bitcoin is so big, it's going to be very hard for anyone to come to any consensus on how the coin should change and grow and evolve to meet future needs. Ethereum, on the other hand, has a lot of infighting because they've already forked once, their community has already been split. Now they're trying to do Ethereum 2.0, which I think it's a very good cause. However, without on-chain governance, this Ethereum 2.0 is going to keep getting delayed further and further. In the Tezos governance system, there are a few terms you should know. The first term is bakers. The second term is voting. And the third term is delegators. Being a Tezos baker is not only a way to make extra Tezos on your investment, it's also a way to get involved in the Tezos community, vote on protocol upgrades. In order for a Tezos baker to validate blocks, the baker is randomly selected to bake these blocks, and a bunch of endorsers are randomly selected to endorse the block. In Tezos, this is done through a sort of lottery system. Basically, each lottery ticket is 8,000 Tezos. Before it was 10,000. So you have 8,000 Tezos, and you get one roll. Now, when people delegate their Tezos to you, your rolls go up in increments of 8,000. So, if someone delegates 1,000 Tezos to you, and you have 8,000 Tezos, that means that you only have 9,000 Tezos, meaning you only have one roll. Another example, if you have 8,000 Tezos, someone delegates 7,999 Tezos, that only equals 15,909 Tezos, which basically means you only have one roll. For Tezos bakers, forging and baking your own blocks is not their only role. As a matter of fact, the bakers are the ones who vote on the protocol upgrade. Just like the reward system, one roll equals one vote. So, the more people who delegate to you, the more rolls you have, the more votes you have, and the more power you have and the more say you have in the governance of the coin. One of the things that really drove me to Tezos was the fact that in the Tezos network, you can go ahead and, without giving me your coins, you can delegate your coins to me and increase my baking role without actually giving me power to spend your coins. This is done through a smart contract. This smart contract only gives me certain rights to your coins. The rights to use them to bake, the rights to use them to vote. So now the time that everyone's been waiting for. What could possibly make the Tezos coin more valuable? Now this is all my personal opinion. However, as of right now, I've done quite a bit of research, and the things that I think will make the Tezos price rise are 1. STOs, 2. Other various projects on the Tezos network, and 3. Pure speculation. I'll go ahead and go a little bit more in depth on STOs and other projects on the Tezos network so you can get a feel as to what's going on. Now, in order to really understand the majority of the projects on the Tezos network, you need to understand what an STO is. Now, an STO stands for Security Token Offering. These security tokens are basically a cryptocurrency, but a little bit different. When you take an illiquid asset, you assign it to a token, and then you can go ahead and trade that token on a digital exchange much easier than you could normally trade that illiquid asset. In the future, I plan to make another video that goes into depth regarding these STO coins. Here are a few projects that are going on the Tezos network right now. So, one of the really cool projects that doesn't really have a lot of great implementation for the everyday user right now. However, for developers, it's a really big concept, and that is called Tezo BTC. Now basically what Tezo BTC is, a Tezos STO, or tokenized Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin itself doesn't have any ability to deal with smart contracts. However, when you go ahead and merge one BTC to one Tezos BTC, then you can actually run smart contracts using Bitcoin. Another couple of big projects on the Tezos network is regarding the tokenization of real estate. Now, a company called Vertalo actually promised to put $350,000 worth of real estate on the Tezos blockchain this year. And even they promised to do $77 million worth of tokenization this month. Another company, T0, has also planned to put $643 million-ish worth of real estate on the Tezos network. Also, Vertalo and T0 are combining efforts to go ahead and tokenize over $300 million worth of Tezos in a boutique form. Now that you have seen how on-chain governance works, how bakers and delegators work, and how Tezos is a pretty great platform, let's go ahead and talk about the future of Tezos. Now, there are a few ideas I personally have that I'd like to share here that can kind of get your imagination sparked and help you think about proposals that could also be added to the Tezos network. Now, one of the first protocols that comes into my mind is zSnarks, or privacy. This is actually currently in development by Nomadic Labs, and they're submitting their proposal sometime in the next couple weeks, I believe. And this proposal will make it possible to send transactions with a higher level of privacy. There are other coins that do this. However, this feature is really important for people who don't want other people to see their transactions. It is possible for shady actions to get done on this. However, it is an optional use feature, which means you don't have to make these transactions private. Another feature I would like to recommend is cryptographic hardening. As time goes by and technology advances, it's going to become easier, well, more probable to be able to crack Bitcoin. Another great improvement would be smarter smart contract. They've already updated this once, where they remove the KT1 addresses, or they made it possible to delegate from a TZ1 address, making the KT1 addresses almost meaningless. And in the future, I believe they're going to take away the KT1 addresses and just have the TZ1 addresses. But honestly, I think there could be different sorts of addresses for different sorts of things. Say you want to give a baker your rights to vote, however, you want to do your delegation to another baker because he has a higher, he has more stability. However, you like the way this baker thinks, and you think he's going to vote for the vote that you want him to go for. So, that concludes my talk on Tezos. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the comments section. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them as well. Very active on Twitter. You can hit me up on Tezos Japan website. I run my own baker here in Tokyo. I hope you liked the video, and I hope to see you next time.